What is this, the fourth or the fifth game in this series? Oh, number 5. Sounds fun. Okay, so with Nintendo's undying wisdom saying that we continued this death march, we will continue. Minis on the Move was the first game in this sub-series to finally make it onto the 3DS, with all the new technology that promises. New things were going to happen to this puzzle series, and so Nintendo delivered on that, giving us the obligatory 3D animation and art style that'll truly show off Mario vs. DK's potential with being upgraded onto this new platform. New puzzles, new gimmicks, new graphics, and a new day for this rivalry. Except that the game during the upgrade process lost something that would be the most important to this game being seen as a legit game and not just another puzzler sent onto the pile that already has piled up many others. Overdone and repetitive, Minis on the Move finds new ways to bore and exacerbate in a new age of portable gaming. Yeah, big surprise after the last 4 games, I still hate this lazy as hell series to the point that I'm just gonna be upfront about it for once on this channel. I'm sure detractors will be quick to point out that this game is the most consumer-friendly and respectful one yet, bringing tons of content to the 3DS that the old system could only dream of doing, with full 3D capability or something along those lines. Although I'm sure I just don't get this series that's done so well to produce 6 games, but I want to get back to that tons of content thing that I mentioned previously. Yeah, this game has the most levels by far of every other game in the series, capping out beyond 200 of them. But just because you have a lot of levels doesn't make it a good game. You just traded a boring game for a lot of a boring game. The levels comprise a few variants on a tile-matching puzzler instead of the previous platforming-based puzzlers, making the player have to move tiles around that the game provides in order to build paths past obstacles in order to reach the end and get some more coins. Some of the early levels can be beaten simply by setting up the correct path in under a minute, and the later ones will require changing tiles in real time to have the toys avoid harder obstacles and get down more complicated paths. Some modes will have one or more toys to deal with, some will require you to get tiles all at once or one at a time, and some will just require the player to flip some tiles around that are already in play. One of the modes is a timed mode where you need to collect items or fail on a frankly gigantic map. And then, throw in that they'll have some gimmicks later with some cannons, some spikes, some varied obstacles, some more turning things, that sort of thing. They'll bring enemies, other toys, and all that stuff. But the problem is that the gimmicks don't really make enough of an interesting impact on the game experience to really bother mentioning. It's just the tile matching thing. The gimmicks that get added into the puzzles are just more things on the map. They're not really things that you really have to bother with, just because they have such little impact on what you're actually doing in comparison to the central gameplay mechanic. Each mode comes with at least 50 levels of pop, with the main mode having 100 of them, and the giant map mode only having 3, since I think that was supposed to be more of an infinite mode on the side rather than something just to actively complete for the 100%ers. The reason why Minis on the Move has all this content is because this is a 3DS game that's trying its damnedest and hardest to seduce some of the mobile game audience into buying it. Minis on the Move basically has the same structure as the hit mobile puzzle games of the day, Angry Birds and Candy Crush among the other smaller ones. It's got the simple gameplay that's pretty passive, so you don't have to think about it too much, having tons of these shallow levels that vary very slightly from each other, and then of course the obligatory and famous 3-star scoring system the game has, with the player being pushed to collect the Mario coins that are on each level, 3 of them. Minis on the Move is not the sort of game that you play actively. It's the game that you pick up when you have literally nothing else to do. One particular reason why Angry Birds and games on the mobile platform got popular and made tons of money was because you can pull your phone out at any time in your life, hit the app, and get immediately playing, and you only need to play it for about 5 or 10 minutes in order to fill time before whatever you're waiting for is actually finished, which is fine as a game goes. It's filling a market, and as long as the MTX don't push you into the poorhouse, it's fine, at least inherently in concept. However, the issue with Minis on the Move is that it was released on the 3DS, which is a dedicated gaming device, and therefore fundamentally misunderstands the audience that it's trying to advertise to. Even back in the day when the 3DS originally launched, and it was small enough to be pocket-sized, Minis on the Move is not going to be winning over the dollars of mobile users because it's completely ludicrous to think that a casual audience is going to carry around a device whose only use is to play Minis on the Move. Mobile games exploded because you can download a bunch of them onto one device that you carry around every day because it's your phone. Facebook, recipes, credit card, internet, YouTube, whatever, in one place, and everything on it is downloaded, so you don't have to deal with the hassle of holding onto multiple devices. The only people carrying their 3DS around on a regular basis are kids, because kids don't really have the requirements in life to make it a necessity to have a phone on them at all times, in addition to portable gaming being a way to socialize with nerds. You're just gonna have to trust me on this one. Even the most puzzle-obsessed person who created the Mario vs. DK franchise's success with their demand would actively struggle to play this game. And by that, I mean actively playing it by pulling out the 3DS and spending a couple hours with it, like long sessions. Most people aren't going to do that because the puzzles in Minis on the Move are so similar to each other and repetitive that actively playing this game for long sessions is going to fry your mind. Minis on the Move is a mobile game in disguise, mainly because the best way to play it is in small bite-sized chunks, rather than those long sessions that you typically see with people who console game. And that is why it's fundamentally against the point of releasing this game on the 3DS. It's totally mismatched with the audience that would be the most willing to play this game as it wants to be played. The people who originally bought the 3DS did so mainly for involved experiences like Pokemon, Fire Emblem, Mario, some Legend of Zelda games, and then the indie hits that could fit on it. And the newest model had SNES downloads available. It's such a completely obvious, idiotic move that could have only been done during the early days of the hype explosion of games on mobile, and all the opportunities that were created because that market exploded so fast. The only other way a game like this got made for the 3DS is just sheer incompetence. This should not have been released as a response to the earlier success in the Mario vs. DK games, because again, it goes completely against what the series was going for. This thing is just never going to appeal to 3DS users ever, as it stands. This was meant to be on phones, but I'm guessing the team behind this just thought that since both platforms were portable, that they would reach the same audience, again, fundamentally misunderstanding the audience that their game was actually going to be seen by. Personally, for this video, this was one of those rare cases where I did not bother to actually complete the game. There is no point doing that because one of the things that was sacrificed when Minis on the Move pivoted to being this mobile 3DS hybrid game was the entire narrative of the series got cut. I've ragged on the story that these games has had since the start for being badly produced and comically stupid, but at least the short cutscenes were something, just a little something to break up the gameplay and add some variety to the experience. Make me want to actually push forward to the game to see what they could have possibly slapped together with their photos and 1 minute of animation. Cutting that off completely means that there is literally no reason to play to level 50, 60, 80, or even 100, because there's going to be nothing happening with Mario, DK, or Pauline, the characters who are just on the menu screen. You're just gonna hit level 100 and get a note on the game saying congratulations, and that's it. There's nothing to accomplish in this game other than completing it for the sake of the game itself. There are no achievements, no cinematics, or anything of note to do in this game other than just keep playing it, which again is a big misfire of the game entirely. Yes, Minis on the Move has a lot of levels to keep you busy, but at the same time, they only have a finite number of levels. This game is not getting updates, and constant updates are the only way to hang on to the interest of mobile users. There is a very good reason why Candy Crush has thousands of levels to play, and that's because in order for a mobile game to have legs and last, you have to keep putting in content to play, otherwise they'll just get bored and move on. Because the point of a mobile game is to be a time sink, a secondary thing to do that doesn't require a lot of thought or involvement, so you can play it on your own time quickly and cheaply. Minis on the Move is such a baffling misfire of a marketing flop that it could have only been produced around the time that people in the industry were just starting to get a grasp on why Candy Crush Saga started earning millions of dollars a year. Even though this game was an eShop exclusive, a downloadable app, that would still require people to play it on the 3DS, whose only purpose is to play games. I know that the 3DS has things like a mobile browser and you can get simpler PDA-style apps on it, but those apps, even though they exist, I would bet, are having to have a lot of their user-friendliness in comparison to being on phones squeezed out in order to fit on such a clunky device. Of course, the news outlets adored this game. It has tons of levels and it's so cheap at $10 that it can outcompete any AAA game on the market, and then they praise the functionality of this game, also having a level editor and a download space for people to share their favorites. But even though the game in a vacuum does have all these things going for it on paper, is it going to keep people enthused in order to keep the game in motion, keep them actually playing it? And after experiencing it, I'm just gonna have to give that a hard no. This game was made on the cheap, trying to catch a trend that was moving so freaking fast that none of these console-based followers were ever going to have a chance of catching even a little bit of it. This game has no complexity and way too many levels to keep puzzle fans engaged for very long, like the previous entries. And it's on a device that mobile users, who are the users that this game is going for the hardest, it's the freaking audience that makes the most sense for the game as it stands, are just not going to start using 3DSs. The people playing tile matching games on their phones don't want this game, because they already have their games downloaded with regular level updates, and Minis on the Move is not going to capture their attention. All the hoops that they would have to jump through just to see that this game exists guarantees that at the very least. It's on a last-gen console which only ever released it on the eShop, and those users also need other games of higher priority to even bother getting a 3DS in the first place, and then those games are going to have to be good enough for them to want to buy multiple ones, and then have an interest in going into the eShop. And this eShop on the 3DS is not putting this game at the top of the freaking advertised high priority list. So there is no freaking way that even a small percentage is going to even see that this game is on the market. So that's why it's such a baffling release. Ultimately, the intent of Minis on the Move is so ridiculously delusional that it makes the entire game a big fat joke in of itself, except this time, it's not even funny. It's just really freaking depressing to see Nintendo first-partiers get so desperate to get that mobile dollar, but having no ability or even relative clue of how to make it happen in the first place. At the end of the day, Minis on the Move continues the Mario vs. DK experience of shallow, tedious levels supported by no story, introducing one-off gimmicks and harder challenges that do not engage and don't spark the interest to continue playing when it even starts getting difficult. It's an easy game to skip this time because no one ever played it ever again. Hell, I wonder if the fan base this series had even knew it came out at the time. Did they even know that this thing released back in 2013 or 2014? I honestly have no freaking clue. I don't even understand the audience that this game had in the first place, so how would I understand that? I'll finish the video off with a final scoreboard as per usual. And I'll wish you all out there a victory for gamers. I do want to thank you all out there for watching my pseudo rant of the week on this channel.